It's Thursday, it's 8 a.m. It's the day for Shika Mic, where we give one of you the mic to come here and raise an issue that we ought to discuss as a nation, all of us together fixing. What is your idea for fixing the nation? Put it down together. It's just in a very simple debate format. What the big idea? Why? Why do you think this is a big idea that all of us should discuss? How should we implement this idea of yours that you say that we ought to implement it? And then are there examples somewhere? Can you give us, other international best practices, other case studies, even locally? Maybe there's something that's happening in a community, in a small area that you're saying, this is already working, we can amplify it. You see, it's there. What, why, how, where else? Put that all together and we'll give you those platforms that you can share these WhatsApp numbers as well. And that is when we shall pick one of you, come Shika Mic and tell us. Our Shika Mic guest for the next conversation is already in studio, Okoth Opondo. He's a civic educator. He will be telling us why he says and he thinks that elected officials should not earn a salary. Before we do that, let's look at what we're tracking in the news today. And today is World Radio Day, which is the day that is set aside globally to just commemorate the progress and the advancements of radio. What is radio, though? Is radio the gadget? Is radio the technology? Is radio audio?
Wow, that's a great question. Is radio? So I don't think it's a gadget for sure. I think it's a technology. It's this idea of you speak, the waves do the thing, and then it's now in someone else's ear.
Right.
And that's
So the transmission technology.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And just the impact of the message. First of all, there's a beautiful pullout on the Daily Nation that talks about Radio Day. There it is. And we're looking at, Leonard Mambo Motela, who was just a veteran, a legend, somebody who kind of infused civic education, humor, culture. He died a few days ago. And his show was the longest running show since radio started in Kenya. 55 years of J.
remaining on air for 55
years. And
every Sunday.
Right, paved the way, I think, for many of us. You think about how we mentioned earlier that we've all had a stint in radio, and, it couldn't have been possible. There's certain people I looked at and used to listen to and never thought I would be behind the mic in the stations that they were in. So it's always very inspiring when you have people who set the pace and set the tone. And then you say, when you're in a station, you're hosting a show, there's something really empowering about being able to do that. Because we couldn't, especially maybe let me even speak for women in radio, that came much later, and then I was 19. I was pretty young. Somebody took a chance on me. And so that's why I think it's important that we continue to do that and, raise new powerful voices. Mariam, I shouldn't be calling you new powerful, but kind of fresh, which is amazing, No,
I agree. I mean, every day is a learning opportunity, so I guess, it's a new day, a new dawn.
But having voices like yours now is what's incredible about the legacy of radio and TV, is that we always have people with fresh perspectives and energy. And then Eric Latif's, signature voice, also blessed us on radio many years ago. And today there's a theme around climate, and I'm guessing that's about amplifying climate justice issues.
Yeah, it is that indeed. Let's take a look at Leonard Mambo for a bit, all right? So he died on Friday. There's a memorial service that's scheduled for tomorrow at the All Saints Cathedral from 2 p.m. And then the burial will follow on Saturday at Langata Cemetery in Nairobi. But Leonard Mambo Motela, even for you, Okoth Opondo, what comes to mind on Leonard Mambo Motela?
I think this is quite a coincidence. I'm the one who did the last interview with him. I do on the side, when I'm not doing civic education, I do historical and cultural stories, and I interviewed him at his home. And we're just talking about his history from the time, because he was telling us that, he was there the day that the British flag was brought down and the Kenyan flag was brought up. He was there to announce all the major assassinations, the breaking news, and I mean, literally everything. So just listening to him, and especially the show Je Huniungwana, this is a show that really also inspired most of us as kids. And probably even the conversation we're going to have today is also going to ask ourselves, Jenny Ungwana, the way we are being governed in our country.
Yeah. And you know, the J who Ungwana was actually that integrity question. Because it was just looking at what's happening, not in government. He never touched government. It was what's happening in our societies. Somebody has done this, and this other person has done the other, and he's asking, surely, J, nauliza, who Ungwana? Right?
And he had that raspy
And like a raspy voice.
And he questioned you, and you actually think, you take a moment to think, who ni Ungwana, right? And I think that's what radio has done for so many of us, given us a chance to take a beat and to have conversations that we should be having, and at such a large scale. I think in a digital age, we can sometimes get lost in the source of TikTok and everything, while forgetting that radio is still the biggest medium of communication for people in this country and on this continent. And Leonard Mambo Mbotela is radio in Kenya. You can't talk about radio in Kenya without talking about him. A BBC training that tells you exactly what kind of person he was, the kind of stories he gravitated towards, the kind of integrity he tried to see in society. And maybe there's something to talk about from, because you were singing the Tausi theme song just during the break,
really
Janet.
was just
Right? And there was something about the content when TV and radio was starting and coming up that was just so much about, hey, can we be better people? Can we focus on, what's working, what's not working? And maybe we're trying to come back to that with Things in the Nation.
Do you think, Okoth, that we've lost our way as citizens who are seeking, who should be questioning what is happening in the country? Do you think that we've lost the way in just being really, what's the word I'm looking for? Vigilant as citizens? Do you think that there's something more that Kenyans need to do to really question themselves and be able to question the government?
I think we've lost our way, and also we've lost our power. We've surrendered our power to the politicians, and we've gotten to the point where we don't, actually we see politicians as saviors, people who own the country, while we are actually the people who own them, and we are the bosses. And in most cases, I say it is quite horrible that when we are in presence of the politicians, we are the ones, we don't even feel ashamed to say that we are honored to meet you. Instead of them saying that we are honored to meet you because we are the employers, we have the power to take it from them. I think it's just a matter of time, but what is also interesting that with this kind of sessions and programs running, we are going to take back that power, and it is necessary, because if we don't do it, honestly, this country is doomed.
You want to make sure he shika's mic.
Kabisa, and you've said it very well. So, Okoth, you reached out to us and you said, I have an issue that I want you to give me the mic to raise to the public as a public debate. And that issue is with regards to our public expenditure, and especially what we do to enumerate our elected officials. And he said that we should do something about that, right?
Sure.
Shika mic.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, wherever you are joining us from, and I'm so happy to be here today. I don't know that to say that I'm in the public court of morality or where, but it is very important that we have this conversation here today, Latif, and your colleagues, because for me, as a concerned citizen, I'm looking at the direction that this country is taking, and sometimes I wonder, are we really building a nation, or are we building a nation for the chosen few? So today I'm here because I'm very interested on how the people that we put in offices, how they handle us, and actually even how we are treating them ourselves. And I'm going to be very quick, especially on the matters. Every time when you talk about politicians, I think the person that comes to almost every person's mind is the member of parliament, who currently the constitution recognizes as the member of National Assembly, MP. I think that's the politician that most of us relate with. And just looking at it, for example, the amount of salary that these people, before we come to the big idea of the day, I was looking at the amount of money that these people are paid, whether it is annually or monthly. Looking at it, it comes to about 30 times the annual income of an average Kenyan. If you look at it in terms of comparing to the other public servants, 2.4 times the number, 2.4 times the amount that is paid to a middle-level doctor, 8.5 times the amount that is paid to a nurse, 18 times more than a primary school teacher, 13 times more than a secondary school teacher, 8.5 times mid-level police officers, and what is even shocking, 10 times more than a mid-level administration officer. So then what is my big idea today? So my big idea today is that looking at the amount of money that these people are paid versus the work that they do and the lack of accountability and the kind of lifestyle that they show us on social media, because nowadays we see our MPs showing us the floating cars and everything. And recently we just had one of the member of parliament saying that, you know, naweza waambia mpange laini nyinyi wote nitawapatia 2,000 shillings each. And you wonder who gives them the audacity to speak the way they are speaking. So what I'm then proposing that we scrap the salaries for these members of parliament totally, and then probably now replace it with a system where we can reimburse them based on expenses that they're using, because even apart from the salaries, we still, these people are still given a lot of allowances. For example, apart from paying their salaries, we still fuel their cars, we pay for their security, we pay for their insurance, health insurance. And the worst thing about paying for the health insurance, they do not even use it in our own public hospitals that they purport to be leading. Most of them don't even take their children to the public schools that the common citizens take their children to. So why is this very important at this defining moment here? So number one, looking at the excessive remuneration relative to the national income. If you look at, for example, given the average annual income for many Kenyans, which is about 200,000 per year, because we know we have different statistics about this, MPs earn roughly 33 to 35 times more than the average citizen. This enormous gap creates a perception of disconnect and elitism. Because if you look at it, this is actually now what make them think that they belong to another world which we are not part of. Then the high cost of the public wage bill, honestly, we cannot afford to sustain these people as per the way things are happening. We do not review the fact that 700,000 people are paid that amount of money. It is okay, but we also need to look at what is our GDP compared to the amount of the money that we are paying these people. Then also what is the GDP per capita compared to the amount of money that we are paying these people. So coming back to the issue of the benefits, the amount of benefits, again, that these people are getting, the combined cost of these salaries, benefits, and allowances place a significant burden on national wage bill, actually now diverting the resources from critical sectors such as health. We're talking about education, infrastructure. Look at another, from another angle, reinforcing a public service ethos and accountability. I think for me at this point, by eliminating these fixed lucrative salaries, public office would be redefined as a service to the nation, rather than a lucrative job where you get in to earn money. Most of the MPs come into office. By the time they're leaving the office, honestly, you can't even understand the amount of money. Because if you're a public servant anyway, you know very well, if you're working and earning around 700,000, we know what you can afford by the end of the month. We know what you can afford by the end of the year. How is it that MPs still have the power, especially like the purchasing power and even the power to talk to us the way they do? Responding to public outcry and youth activism that we saw last year, it is quite strange that even after what we saw last year and Kenyans went to the street, especially the young Kenyans, went to the street, and people, among the things that we are complaining about, that the lavish lifestyle enabled by this remuneration, luxurious cars, sometimes even access to private helicopters. They take selfies in these helicopters, in the private planes when they're traveling. Currently, we are informed of the 100 of them heading to Addis Ababa. Kenya is only having one vote. You sometimes wonder whose taxes are they traveling on. Social media and recent protests, especially among Kenyan youth, have underscored the demand for reform. And I think it is now. Eliminating these salaries would then directly address a major grievance of the electorate. But even before I head now to how then are we going to implement this, I also want us to look at it from this angle. Recently, we saw USAID pulled out, which is quite unfortunate, yes? USAID pulled out, and is quite unfortunate. It is strange that one of the top 10, we are among the top 10 largest economies in Africa, but we are still the 5th largest beneficiary of USAID. As a country right now, is it important maybe for us to make a very bold move and reduce on the expenses? So if you look at some countries, for example, like New Zealand, 2020, MPs were forced to take a 20% pay cut. India, 2020, 30% pay cut. UK, 2009. Malaysia, 2022. Greece, the year 2010. And things are actually working because politicians need to be told the truth that this is what is happening. Many times we compare ourselves to countries like Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea, because we say these are our siblings. Their members of parliament earn a lot of course, just close to what our people are earning. But if you look at it in terms of the per capita income, it makes a lot of sense. Why is it that for us it is becoming very difficult? So on the issues of how we are going to implement this, I know one of the ways to pass a new law, it must go through the parliament, which is so difficult, for example, to tell a member of parliament to introduce a bill that works against them. But I believe that through popular initiatives, we can do this because we've seen it happening in other countries.
Through popular initiative?
Popular initiative, yes.
Okay. All right. First of all, off the bat, love the idea. The idea
Of course, Mariam had to love that idea.
Big time.
If there was anyone who was ever going to love that idea.
I'm like, take it all. When we say public service, it really should be service, right? And then we reimburse them for their expenses, because if you really want to do this job, you should be willing to do it at no cost. And I'm going to stick with you on that one. But I do have questions. Actually, Okoth and I apparently go way back, right?
Really?
It's a debate thing. There's like a debater in him, right? You were at the Great Debaters.
Yes, I'm a product of Great Debaters Contest.
It's showing.
The first lot, actually.
The very first one. Okay.
And what were you doing in that first one?
The very first one, I was also a debater. Yeah. Maybe we even went.
We went against each other at some point,
Yeah, head to head.
We need a rematch at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
At some point, we just set up the studio and be like, let's go. But what's your first?
Sawa. Maswali ni mengi.
One.
Popular initiative to get this through, because I'm sold. I'm cool. Let's scrap their salaries and then we give them. Yani tuwape pocket money, ama we reimburse them. Kuja nionyeshe receipts zako za taxi na fuel na nini, and I give you back this money. When you say popular initiative, how
does that look like?
Popular initiative to get this through, because you're absolutely right. There is no MP who will table a bill in Parliament that says scrap my salary. Even if you did get one outlier to do it, they're going to be thrown out before they even, walk in. Before they start saying, Mr. It's over. So, popular initiative, what does that look like? How does that work?
Popular initiative simply means that we, the people who are tired, I say the vulnerable people of Kenya, we are tired of how things are being done. We need probably to start considering things like the people's assemblies and start calling these politicians to some of these assemblies and telling them what we want. Referendums can be done. And I know that we can start it from outside, because there's no way you're going to expect a member of parliament to table a bill in parliament on that let us cut our salaries. So when I'm talking about popular initiatives, it means that the civil society and the citizens who are concerned must now take the lead and say, you know what, if this is our GDP per capita, you are earning more than over 40 times what per capita is, and you are the leaders, you're supposed to be helping the country generate more revenue. We do not see, for example, you people work here, and I know you have KPIs. Before, sometimes every month you have to meet with your boss, and you have to explain that this month, this is what I was supposed to do. Have I achieved it? No. Why haven't I achieved it? What is the plan of not achieving it? Right. Remember again that members of parliament, apart from the only thing that they're not allowed to occupy is another public office. These people are still working in other. We've seen some members of parliament are still lawyers, they're still engineers, they're still teachers. So they're still earning in other places.
There's one who was, I think, a doctor in the States.
Yes.
Yeah.
A deputy governor of
yes. A deputy governor. She's a full-time doctor in the United States of America.
And served in the United States of America for 5 years. Whether he was earning a salary or no, we cannot tell, but that is already a problem by itself. Yeah.
Of course, they've resisted this in the past, right? There's been resistance. How do you think this can be enforced?
Number one, one of the ways of enforcing it is now through civic education and making Kenyans just understand that the pain that we are going through is actually caused by some of the people we think should be bringing the solution. The number two, we must now see emergence of new leaders into these houses who are interested in the same conversation that we're having, so that by the time it is whoever party B or whoever candidate C is in that house, and we know you are raising that issue and it is a moral issue that everyone needs to be part of, and the conversation needs to be done.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the question of the popular initiatives and the referendums, because I think the how is really, really important to interrogate. But I know Eric also has questions. He's been reading. Okay.
It's scripting.
I am.
It's ready.
Bado ni kwapo. Should we go the referendum route, for example, what percentage of Kenyans would need to be in support of this move? How do we get it assented then? Right? Because at the end of the day, the president would still need to assent to this. Or is it popular initiative and it's like it passed at the ballot, we're good to go? I just want a little bit more on the nitty-gritties, because it sounds amazing. I just don't see the how
you can see the resistance already.
Yes, the resistance.
But let me ask you, sometimes back, if you look at, for example, how parties like ODM were formed and PNU, it was as a result of a referendum. And the president was opposed with Raila and his team, but that is how ODM came to existence. And once people vote on something, the people's voice is said is like the voice of God. Once we say it, that is the direction. So if Kenyans vote and say, you know, this is the direction we are taking as a country, not even the president can challenge. And I think in the recent past, you've seen that people are taking back their power. When people went to the streets, for example, and forced the president to actually do the reshuffle. Okay, we wanted the cabinet, yote itoke. But you see, the moment now the reshuffling was done, it tells that people, the politicians in office are beginning to get worried that people are taking back their power. So I'm sure that if you are to go to a referendum and people vote that that is the direction, not that if people, it will happen.
When?
If we go to the streets, or even if we take that direction, definitely Kenyans are going to say, you know, this is how we need to treat the politician of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we initiate that referendum?
Initiation of referendum happens, I think, at a citizen. You can actually start this whole process because there's a very clear way. I wish we had all the time. I would even have taken us through just how it happens. But involving the collection of signatures, of course, but again now the other big issue is here now that we also will need an IBC, which we are still struggling even to put in place.
Yes.
But in the long run, once we have the IBC in place, I think this is not a conversation of today or tomorrow. But this is a conversation that must be achieved by some time, or else we are not going to live this way, to be honest.
Atwezi Shivi.
Atwezi Shivi.
Popular initiative to change what? Are we amending the constitution? Are we amending a law, or are we introducing a new law? Because it sounds very swanky, you know. Yes, we do a popular initiative. What is it that we are presenting in the popular initiative?
What we're presenting in the popular initiative, that this is how we want the office of any elected person in Kenya to look like, and this is how they are going to be handled. So, for example...
So it's a constitutional amendment?
Yes, it's a constitutional amendment. And we have to agree that whatever is then passed through this process, even the SRC must also have to abide and work by that. So, for example, when we are talking about solving this issue by introducing a reimbursement system, what you are saying is that as a member of parliament, we know parliament, you don't go from 9 a.m. to 5. It is not like an 8-hour job. You're not there Monday to Friday. We know, rarely do we see that parliament full. I don't know even the last time that you saw a parliament full. Maybe when they're discussing their birthdays, when they're discussing
finance bill.
Yes, and that one was because it was very critical and they knew where we were.
Right.
Or sometimes maybe when they're discussing their own salary increment.
Yeah, or something that serves them.
Yes, exactly, something that serves them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying now that we have the power, because, you know, sometimes as citizens, we can even group ourselves and say, I want to see my member of parliament in parliament today.
Right.
If we don't see you, remember at the constituency level, they have a day each week that we go to meet them, because parliamentarians have a day each week that we are allowed to visit them there in the office. We can then go and, even if possible, frog march them to where we need them to be. Yes.
Of course, I like the idea. I like how you've brought it out. And first of all, the justification of it, looking at the salary for a member of the National Assembly and then comparing it to the salary of a doctor, the salary of a teacher, the salary of an ordinary civil servant, and then comparing to what the job description is, the scope of work. Okay, I like it. And then you say, let us scrap the salaries and only do facilitation for them doing their job. And that's why we're saying the reimbursement. So when we scrap that, we're saying that they are working for no pay. You're saying that somebody who is seeking elective office should be a philanthropy.
Not should be a philanthropy, but
That's what it is. I mean, if I'm working for no pay, that's philanthropy.
You're not working for no pay. You're not working for no pay at all, Latif. You are going to be reimbursed for the expenses that you meet in the line of duty.
That is not pay.
To me, we can, because remember, these people are still working.
If you're living here today, Okoth, and I send you, right? I tell you, Okoth, I want you to go to Westlands and go and bring something and come back, and I give you bus fare. Have I paid you?
You haven't paid me by giving me a bus fare, but also remember that we are not denying them the other benefits. So they are still also getting all the other benefits, and they'll be, they're entitled to all the other benefits. But again, remember,
the other benefits being allowances, insurance, mortgages, all of those.
All of those.
So it's only the basic salary that
it's
you're
only
going
the
after.
fixed salary that we want to go after. So the other reason, maybe also to address his question, that you're asking whether they are on pay or not. Remember, we are also talking about maybe redefining what this office is. It is about service to the people. You do not study to become a politician. This is something that you've thrown yourself to the people that I'm ready, I want to represent this constituency. I believe that if we take this path, even elections will not be as costly as we see them, because elections become costly in this country because of what people are going to earn by the end of the day and the power that they're going to control. If we take that direction, even changing members of parliament will be so easy, because someone once said, politicians are like diapers and we need to change them frequently if we truly want people to feel comfortable. Because, I mean, one person, five...
Who said that? Okoth, you'll go down in the books of quotes.
One person, 5 years. And, you know, we do one election and it is Kenya. In Kenya, we are always in a campaign mode. Elections results are announced today. We already know who are the people who are likely to contest in the next election. We are not even done with the first term, 2022-2027, but already we hear people talking about 2032, and you wonder, is it really about us or about them? That's why now we have to redefine how this office looks like and reduce some of the advantage and the benefit that these people are getting from these offices.
Article 41 of the Constitution. Every person has a right to fair labor practices. Every worker has a right to a fair remuneration. Remuneration is salary. Let's take a break. We continue this debate. Okoth Opondo is a civic educator. He is our guest this morning. And we have given him the mic because he says, give me the mic. I want to raise a public debate today. And his public debate is, let us scrap the salaries of all elected officials and only reimburse them for the expenses that they incur while serving us. Well, we can give them a couple of other benefits. That's what he says. We shall discuss that. What do you think? Do you agree with him? Do you not? We'll open up the phone lines at some point to join the conversation. But also, you are sending your debate and conversations on our social media platforms, on YouTube and Facebook, everywhere where we are live streaming. We'll be looking at them after this break.
To get El Shaddai by Hat the Band, dial star 811 star 924 hash.
And I'm never lonely. Amenipa such an awesome
Skiza, Na Nation.
He is an awesome God.
Machi 7 tunasherekea wanawake, tunapiga hatua kwa udhabiti na nguvu. Chini ya anga angavu tunaanza safari ya kusherekea wanawake wanaoongoza njia. Tunawakaribisha wanawake wote Muthaiga Golf Club kwa uzoefu wa kipekee wa mchezo wa gofu. Ari ya kusonga mbele imesalia nasi, tunapong'aa kwa mtindo wa kifahari na uzuri wa kipekee. Huu ni mwendo wetu, huu ni wakati wetu. Heri ya wanawake duniani.
Over a marathon 38-game season, sustaining a high level of performance is easier said than done. In Barcelona's case, they began their La Liga campaign in scintillating fashion, flying out of the blocks with an impressive run of wins. But a mid-season form slump has derailed the early runaway leaders, who now find themselves playing catch-up.
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Hustle is survival.
When a loved one's lost.
Catch these exciting shows only on Maisha Magic Plus on DSTV channel 163 and GoTV channel 3.
Hi Kenyans, this is Daniel Muridhi Kaburia, the Secretary General, Kenya Junior School Teachers Association. We as JSS teachers are fixing the nation, but we want Kenyans to know that all the monies that have been sent to schools in the name of capitation, the monies are not benefiting the learners, but heads of institutions in collusion with the immediate supervisors, as the sub-county directors and the auditors, are consuming the monies.
Observe Nation, we are proud to be in a Hoseli ecosystem.
Observe Nation, sisi ni wanafunzi wa Evangaro Kamboseli. Tunafurahi kuishi na wanyama. Tunapenda kutunza mazingira.
Tunapenda kuishi na wanyama. It's a good thing. Basically, what the kids are saying is that they love conservation.
They do.
Right?
Yeah.
And just living in a community where wildlife and humans are living and coexisting together. Mm-hmm. There's no conflict in their community between wildlife and, they have minimized that. Mm-hmm. And it's a good thing when children grow up knowing that conservation is ingrained in them.
Yep.
Lovely, beautiful. How does one send us a video?
Thank you for asking. You know, that tunapenda kuishi na wanyama, there's a catchiness it has that made me remember pamoja tuangamize ukimwi. Like, there's a catchiness it has. But if you have something catchy that you want to say, our WhatsApp number is 0112 500 400. I'll say it again slowly so that you can save it on your phone. 0112 500 400. It's also at the bottom of your screen right now, so you can have a look. And of course, send us that video in landscape mode. Tell us who you are, where you are, what your big idea is, or what you're loving. Kama ni kuishi na wanyama. Or if you're a city girl and you're like, please, no. Mimi napenda kuona skyscraper. Utuambie. Yeah. All of that. And of course, we'll share your WhatsApp.
Napenda kuishi kwa Gorofa.
Kwa Gorofa. Yeah. Tell us. And of course, we'll be more than happy to share.
All the feedback that's coming in. This is a lively debate. Okoth Opondo, civic educator, is our guest today. We have given him the mic. We told him, shika mic. He was like, all right, thank you very much. Now I'm proposing that we scrap the salary of elected officials and only give them some allowances, and we reimburse them for expenses while they're serving us. What are they saying on YouTube?
I really love what Cyprus has said. Cyprus B on YouTube. In perspective of improving services in government facilities like schools and hospitals, all politicians should sign and abide by a contractual clause to exclusively use public government facilities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because they don't. You launch them, right? But you'll go use something abroad, or somewhere else. And then, of course, Willie Mayoli, to be honest, most of our politicians aren't there for salary, although I think many are. They're there for the... You agree that they're not there for salary?
Kuna kitu inaitwa NGCDF, tutaongea
right.
One day. I think that's
power,
the one.
Influence,
and
access to all these other things.
Or power and how you move in power when you're there. Finally, Peter Otieno says, wow, these are the people in our course who should be in Bunge. Would you ever go to Bunge?
I tried, and actually I was telling myself if I had won, that is the place I wanted to be. I was a candidate in Kibra.
Right.
When? 2019 by-election, when we lost the member of parliament, Ken Okoth. We were his products, and actually to us, that is what we were advocating for, because he was actually, he even wanted to table that. You remember also with the Honorable Daoud from Meru?
Yeah.
They together talked about this in sometimes back in one of the TV shows there.
Yeah. Ukienda Bunge, will you change? Will you change, Okoth? Will you become somebody who right now is saying, accountability. We don't need to give our politicians or elected leaders a lot of, we need to slash their salaries, we need to slash allowances. Do you think you would go there and abide by your
word? I
word?
think for now, because I'm not really interested in that seat anymore, we are interested in pushing this conversation and holding people accountable, so that once we have the proper systems of holding anyone accountable, regardless of who is in office, that person will have to live by how Kenyans are demanding.
Are you not interested? Because now, if this proposal of yours goes through, there'll be no salary.
No. I mean, if an opportunity to lead Kenyans come, I'm not even interested. I mean, in the whole issue of salary, because by the end of the day, we need to make this country the country that we want it to be. Allow me just comment something very fast on what the first comment that you read. How is it that we never meet even our politicians in public buses? For example, in Germany, transport is given to them free as long as they're using the public buses. Yeah. How is it that it is so difficult even to find our own politicians going to the same Bagati hospital that they are launching? We've seen a governor launching it a couple of times. We want to see them in Mama Lucy and Pumwani Hospital. Why can't we see even their children? I know some of them study in the public schools, but we know even public schools in this country are in kind of category. There are public schools which are so high more than the other public schools. So what we are saying is that if the politicians must keep on taking our taxes as their salaries and the benefits, can they also use the public amenities? Because they will never understand what it means when a woman gives birth on the line, or what it means when 10 children on one desk, or what it means when a school like Olympic, for example, in Kibra, with over 5,000 kids, and you look at the number of latrines and you wonder, do they really understand what these children are going through?
Yeah, and it will force them to improve the facilities, because they'll feel the pinch and the pain. Hopefully, it will force them to say, we can't do this.
When your wife or your sister or when your kid comes back in the evening and tells you, Dad, today, hili nifanyikia shule. You are likely now to start looking at how to act. But as long as these people lead us from the other side, it looks like we are in two different worlds. Politicians are in the mass and we are on earth, and they always come to lead us, then go back to where they belong.
Right. There's something here that Scooby is saying. What a great and timely sentiment. The issue of how much am I going to earn is what makes them come out in large numbers to vie for different positions. Some of them even borrow huge sums of money to fund their campaigns with the surety of winning. When they indeed get the chair, they tend to take money from the backside to repay their loans, leaving the electorate to whimper and to suffer inadequate resources. That is Derek Asonga listening in from 97.7 Watwana Kuru. And of course, we appreciate you so much because you are spot on. People, the amount of money it takes to campaign for a seat often cannot be recouped, even in the term that you're there. In those 5 years, even if all 700,000, you didn't take a loan, you didn't do anything, you were just getting your salary at Nihivo to your 700,000 over 12 months, over 5 years, haitalipa hizo loans. To get endorsements from your big politicians, name withheld, I will not even tell you the amounts of money that it costs, even for something as simple as an MCA seat, a women rep, to be, an MP, right? So there's clearly something else that's happening there. So then that begs the question, Okoth, if we take away their basic salary, but watu ni watu bado, iyo salary yao, hata hizi lipa loans, is there a pinch to this? Or are there other ways that MPs make sure that they are, financially set? So even if we do take away this basic salary, they'll still have allowances that can often amount to more than the basic salary. They still have NGCDF. They still have whatever other avenues they use to repay these hundreds of millions of shillings that they use while campaigning. So will there really be a pinch?
The pinch must be felt. Because everyone is feeling in the economy right now, we are all feeling it. People have been taking pay cuts anyway. So one of the things that we also realize that MPs have been saying, citizens come to our doorsteps every time there's a burial, every time there's a child who is not going to school and everything. So then it will force them to make systems work for every citizen. If you're talking about insurance, it will work for every citizen. When you're talking about education, I still wonder up to date, how is it that we still make Kenyans go in lines and start queuing at around 4 a.m. for 5,000 shillings bursary? To them, it's about numbers. Why can't we just put all these figures? Siju NCDF, Siju Pesa Ministry Gani account. Can't we just say if education is free, let kids be in school? The Constitution says that you should be in school. It doesn't say that you should be in school, then go and maybe start begging a certain member of parliament. We've seen people, some even going to some of these meetings, and having women or even old men kneeling down to be given bursaries. Honestly, it is so dehumanizing in a modern, in a country like ours today. Kenya is way above this. How is it that every time we're talking about taxes, they'll tell us that we need to compare ourselves to Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea, but the moment we start talking about accountability, they ask that, you want to take us to the South Sudan way or the Somalia way. We have to be consistent. If we want to play with the big boys, we have to keep on behaving like big boys. If we want to fly high, we have to keep behaving like the eagles, or else this is not going to work.
You want to bum. You want to roll with the big boys. Irongo Macharia says, this guy is speaking so much sense. Okay, there's sense. But then there's a practicality of it, right? It is a very good populist idea that you've brought here, Okoth, and thank you for introducing it. But how practical is it in terms of just saying that you are going to then attract people who want to serve? Because you're telling me that for the next 5 years, I forego my life. I stop living. I am coming from earning something I've been doing, I've been working, I've been earning. I stop all that so that I can come and serve the people in the National Assembly for 5 years and hopefully go back to them and ask them to re-elect me. How practical is that?
Yes, very practical, Eric. I'm sure there was a time that people were sitting down and asking, can there be something like a television station? And some people probably doubted and said, can never get to a point where people will sit in Nation Media Group and people from Nakuru and everyone is commenting. So I believe that everything always has a starting point. Remember, we're not denying these people the right of working. We've seen even in the past when Governor Orengo was, for example, a senator, he was still serving as a lawyer. I know quite a number of these members of parliament are still running their own businesses. Being in parliament is not a full-day job. These people don't report from morning to evening. It is just a pattern. That's why we are willing to compensate them. And it's also part of the strategy that we want to make sure that politics does not become as costly as it is. Then it should remain as local as possible to the grounds where they come from. So that even changing from Opondo to Latif to Janet to Richard, it becomes so easy because it is now not about you, but it's about the people. If we feel that, for example, in this era, the next 2 years, for example, as a constituency, we need to concentrate on environmental conservation and climate change, you're not the perfect person. Replacing even becomes easier. But as long as politics is still about the amount of money that these people have access to, we are not going to get people who can serve us, Eric.
Shouldn't there be something that's full-time? Shouldn't some of this work be full-time? Because change and lobbying and presenting in parliament, balancing it might be risky. Because I think some of it, for progress, you really need to be 100% on this. So it goes back to Eric's point of how does somebody who wants to do this full-time, they want to serve Kenya, they want to be able to push for the kind of policies that will progress Kenya. They're not looking at it to lead a lavish lifestyle, but they also need to put something on the table, remove a loan. That's what they want to do. Or are you saying, no, we're not trying to bring these two together. If you want to run or vie for a seat, you need to balance it with a corporate job because we are not here to make this become a, so for you to be able to make a living.
Don't make politics a career. Is that that's what it will come to? Like you're only coming here like a gap year from your work.
In order for it to be effective, it would have to be something that you, even when I was starting out in activism, this is what confused me because it's very contentious when somebody will hear, oh, why are you being paid? So it's almost similar to that. If you're going to do it full time, there needs to be a facilitation, not based on this is the receipt, but before even the receipt, it's, hey, here's a percentage of what it is that we're giving. This percentage is for you to be able to at least cover your rent, cover expenses. It's minimal, but it's semi-decent. That way you can throw yourself into it without worrying too much about, Sasa, how am I going to juggle the two? Can we approach it that way?
I hear you. You're like it's giving Kotu. You're fighting for the workers. But we need to separate we need to separate the workers from members of parliament. Because I get what you're saying. It is a job that ideally should be full-time, right? And requires, you need to be compensated for your work. Fair enough. But the reality of our situation is people who are overcompensated in a nation where people are often underpaid or not paid at all.
Should there be some compensation beyond what Okoth is saying of reimbursement? Should there be some form of compensation?
So that's, and to my thinking is this, let's scrap it off and get people who really want the job to do
Then
it.
we see the
so
need
that
of
it
that
becomes a
compensation.
service thing. And then now we can now start having this conversation around compensation again. Let me get people who genuinely care about the people and they're like, you know what, you've covered my expenses, cool. That's enough for me. I really just want to make sure that the people of Eldama Ravine or Eldas or wherever have running water, have electricity, people are going to school, there's no FGM, If I can do that in 5 years, fantastic. Then we revisit the conversation.
No, I'm definitely for slashing. I think I always have been, still am. I'm just anti a lot of the way these people move. So I have no problem with saying slash, remove allowances completely. But I think you've answered the question of...
Let me ask you a question, Janet. So when I said I was coming here today, there's a teacher from Alliance High School that we were having a conversation with, and he was just wondering how these MPs live here. So you are paid a salary to be a member of parliament, but again, you are paid an allowance to attend a session to work. So you are paid to be paid. What are we talking about here?
Corruption.
So if you are a teacher, you are earning a salary per month for you to attend a class session, so you are paid different. So you are paid to be paid to work. What are we talking about here? When we hear members of parliament, and I want to insist on this, when we hear members of parliament sometimes telling us that you can line up and tawapatia pesa na yezi isha, we should be asking ourselves, what are they taking us for?
Which goes back to what do we need to change within ourselves to accept this? There might be some people fighting this saying, I know, let them have money, they need to look after themselves, they need to look after, what do Kenyans need to shift in their minds?
This is now where the role of civic education comes in, that Kenyans need to understand that they have the power to control these people. The moment we keep on letting them be like the people who give us all the solutions and never asking them, because, it is said, teach us how to fish, not to be giving us fish all the time. Why is it that every weekend, whenever there's a funeral, we have to line up and leave for a casket to be bought, for whatever to be done? It must be. Nowadays, they are even now taking over weddings, that the moment a politician gets into a wedding, the event turns to be about him. And Kenyans, we are letting this thing be. So now with civic education and more of these kind of programs, and we have to keep on pumping sense into Kenyans and make them understand that this is your country. You own it. We have the power of these politicians. We can turn the tables and get them out and have the new ones here.
Because you told us during the break how, in some of the inspiration that you've gotten to try and seek elective office was working with others. You worked with the late Ken Okoth, who was the MP for Kibra. Did people come to Ken Okoth with need for money? Naomba pesa ya school fees, naomba unisaidie tuko na mazishi, hospital bill, this and the other.
Yes, it happened.
Are you aware that this is across the country?
It is across the country.
That all the 290 plus 47 plus 10 MPs plus 47 senators plus
47 governors, 47 women reps.
Yeah.
1,800 and something MCs. Yes.
All of them get people coming to them saying, this idea.
Yes.
So now.
This is happening because 60 years of independence, we haven't worked on the systems to make things work for Kenyans. The reason as to why I'll run to a politician to assist me in something is because things are not working. And that's the role that they should be doing. So over these years now, we're asking ourselves, after paying over all this period of time, why are the systems not working? Eric, in the 70s, between 70s and now, the salary increment has been, in Kenya, it is 318% of the members of parliament. From what they used to earn, 1970s to date, to 2024, end of 2024, is over 318%.
Okay.
While it is okay, it is not, actually, the conversation where we are getting to now is that we've not been having a problem with paying you. What now we are asking, can you show us the job that you've been doing this pay? And I'll come back to agree with her when she said, fine, let us scrap it first. Then once we see those who can work, we can say, you know what, there's a need. These people are now working. There's a need. Maybe now we can change. Yeah.
People are agreeing with you. Andrew Kariuki on YouTube. The conversation should be, how can the MPs serve this nation but get a particular amount, an allowance yearly as per the projects they have completed? So he's taking it even a step further.
I like that.
You get an allowance per the projects you've completed. It's only in Africa where we have rich politicians and poor entrepreneurs. That's Aeneas Miseli. And then Star Kenya is asking a very important question. Can you, me, Okoth, Janet, Eric, all categorically and honestly say we will not dip our hands in the cookie jar once we're in public office? Because so far, 99.9% have failed.
There's some people who wouldn't dip their hands in the cookie jar but then they're in a system that irregardless aids and abets you dipping and almost forces you, because you're trying to make me look bad because you're trying to stand on a high moral ground. That's why he said it has to be a system change. Right. I like what Ndungo Wainaina on X is saying. It's time to radically slash the national government down to size. Right-sizing bloated national government struggling to meet its objectives and has become vulnerable to waste, fraud, abuse, and mismanagement is crucial. Time to redefine the role of government in the lives of people. This has been discussed countless times, just slashing out some of these roles and then now slashing further the excessive pay. Right. Do we need these? How many did we count between 1,047, 47, 47?
1,800 and something. That's elected officials, all combined. Okay. But they're all serving us.
They're all serving us, but, you know, people always make references to comparisons in other countries where, you know, they have to collaborate and be there with people riding public transport, just coming down to earth. We have demigodded. Right. And I think culturally, it's a whole shift where you kind of see these people as it's them and us. I know we now need to see it as, no, it's us. And then them. Right. That needs to happen for all of this to come back to make sense. If that doesn't happen, we'll forever platform and pedestal. We need to decenter them.
Okay.
Okay, everybody.
I want to ask the question.
Yeah. Okay.
To you, Mariam, to you, Janet. If Okoth Opondo's popular initiative went through, and we have said we are starting from scratch, elected officials will not earn a salary. We are only going to reimburse you for this and then give you just a small allowance to cater for your medical, to cater for your housing, and to cater for your transportation, now which we are reimbursing. Okay? And this happened. Would you vie for public office? No salary.
I think the question would be, as of now, with all these salaries and perks, would I vie for public office? The answer is no. So then even if you...
So you wouldn't serve the public either way?
Wow, that's such a terrible way to put it.
Whether for pay or for not?
No, I don't think I would be effective, not because of myself, but because of... No, let me not blame the system.
You're talking about today.
Okoth is saying, from where we're starting, we are fixing the system in all ways.
But I asking, if I had political ambitions, right, and the system was, as Okoth is saying, no salary, only reimbursement, would I vie? Yes. If I genuinely had ambitions for political office, yes. But as of now, I don't, so this changes nothing.
Do you have ambition for serving the people?
Absolutely.
Okay, so would you vie for an elective office where you're serving the people but with no pay?
Would you? So Mariam is saying no, would you?
Mimi? Why do you mean? Would you?
I would. But I would honestly have to do it if it meant being in a system that wouldn't. First of all, you go there with good intentions, you will be ruined. Like, even you want to do the right thing. There's a time I was approached, by the way, a few years ago.
It was public. We all know you were approached.
What if he's putting it like, sasa unaongea kama, tunajua you approached. Point is, for a moment, there was just that thing of saying, man, maybe this is actually how you shift the system from inside. People are like, don't do it.
They're like, that's so cute, Janet.
It's so cute, and it's genuinely. There's so many, Okoth, I'm sure, because he's somebody who could, I think, carry the interests of people, but you really get scared about going in there, even with the best intentions. And then you try to leave, and it's still difficult. So, first of all, my earpiece has died, so I don't know if...
All right, we're heading there. Let me just read some of the comments that have come in after what you had read earlier. Star Kenya says, salary is not the attraction in public office, it's the deals. Fred Mumanyi, let them get free fuel, free education, free for their kids and all other kids in Kenya. Give them minimum salary. Remove eating, sitting, working, laughing, impeaching allowances.
Entertainment.
That's not bad. But, it's almost like if you're a teacher in the school and your students and your children are also students.
Yeah.
Then the teachers get a lot of these benefits, like a discount on fees and that kind of thing.
The smallest ever person, that's what they call themselves, smallest ever, says, no, leaders should be paid and well paid, but they need to do what we vote for them to do, period. Pay them well for the job that they're doing. And then now let's hold them accountable to make sure that they're doing the job that they're doing.
You don't have to pay them that well. It doesn't have to be preposterous
It should be,
and diabolical
right?
as it currently
Like
is.
you
The
said,
basic
it should
salary
be
of an
commensurate,
MP is what?
commensurate
Is
to our
at
GDP.
most 700,000.
Commensurate to our GDP per capita.
Okay, so he said it's about 30 to 50 times.
Yeah, actually, per capita.
Per capita.
If you compare to countries like Malaysia, South Korea, and Singapore that we compare ourselves to, none of them is even more than 3 times.
Right. Na sisi tuko
Yeah, per capita.
30.
Yeah. Sisi ukiangalia, it is crazy.
Because the per capita income in those countries is also very high. So we match it with ours. Anyway, of course, that's been a good one. Asante sana for shaking the mic and for dropping it and for raising all the issues that we raised. This debate should continue in all our platforms because, I mean, we have debaters already who have picked up and they're already continue engaging on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. He's also been very, very busy on TikTok. Okoth Opondo is a civic educator. He vied to be a member of parliament in the Kibra by-elections. And how did you fare? Well,
I was position 4.
Very good.
Out of 25 candidates in an
You
election
did
that was
very
really
well.
funded. Remember the Marigas and everything?
Well done. Well done. Keep at it and keep educating the public. Keep it here for more. In the next hour, we ask you, how do you deal with cyberbullying? How do you deal with defamation online? We'll have somebody, an expert, who's coming to join us for that conversation.